Arrogant cowboy disrespected the town's grandmother. Her response shocked everyone. Part 1, approx. 1250 words. Third person simple English violated free. The frontier town of Dry Creek Station sat where the red hills met a wide desert that shimmered like glass. In the daytime, the sand looked normal. But when the sun dropped low, thin lines of blue light sometimes appeared across the dunes, like the ground was quietly remembering something old. People in Dry Creek Station did not chase those lights. They had rules that were older than the saloon, older than the water tower, older than the first rail line that cut the horizon in two. The biggest rule was simple: respect the land, respect the people. And the person most respected of all was an old woman everyone called grandmother Mara **. No one used her last name anymore. It felt unnecessary, like giving a name to the wind. She lived in a small house near the town square, where a worn stone bench faced the desert. Every morning, she sat there with a cup of warm tea and fed small gray birds that gathered around her feet. She spoke softly, never wasted words, and somehow always knew what the town needed before anyone else said it out loud. If a child was sick, someone would whisper, "Ask grandmother." If a couple argued, people would say, "Take it to grandmother." If a storm came early, the sheriff would glance at her bench before he glanced at the sky. Sheriff Harlan was a strong man with a calm face and steady hands. He didn't like mystery. He liked clear laws and clear lines, but even he listened to her. That morning, the town felt normal. A rancher guided a herd of dust-colored cattle past the store. The mechanic hammered a loose plate on a solar wagon. The saloon owner, Miss Juno, swept the porch and watched the road like she watched everything, quietly, carefully. Then the new sound came, not the slow clop of a horse, not the squeak of a wagon wheel. This sound was smooth and sharp, like metal moving with confidence. Heads turned. A rider appeared on the main road, coming in fast, kicking up sand that looked like smoke behind him. Under him was no living horse. It was a mechanical mount built like a stallion but plated with dark alloy and lit with faint green lines along its ribs. Its eyes were bright sensors, and each step landed with a clean, powerful click. The rider sat like he owned the road. He wore a long coat that looked expensive even under dust, and boots that had never known mud. A silver belt buckle caught the sun. A polished side holster hung at his hip, but his hand rested more on the reins than on anything else, like he trusted his machine more than old tools. His name was Cole Vance **. Nobody in Dry Creek Station knew that yet. But the way he looked around, the way he smiled like he had already won, told them everything they needed to feel uneasy. Cole guided his mechanical horse straight toward the saloon. He slowed only when he reached the porch, then dismounted with easy grace. His mount stood still, silent, almost too quiet for something so large. Miss Juno stepped forward with a polite smile because a saloon owner had to be polite even when the air felt wrong. "Welcome to Dry Creek Station," she said. "You passing through?" Cole looked her up and down like he was reading a label on a bottle. "Maybe," he said. "Depends what kind of town this is." "A decent one," Miss Juno replied, still calm. Cole gave a short laugh. "Decent towns don't hide on the edge of nowhere." He pushed past her and walked inside. The saloon grew quieter than it should have. Men paused mid-sip. A card game stopped with a hand still in the air. The piano player missed a note, then stopped entirely. Cole looked around like he enjoyed the attention. He walked to the bar and tapped the counter with 2 fingers. "Something strong," he said. The bartender, old Finch, poured a drink without speaking much. Finch had been behind that bar longer than anyone could remember. He had seen smug traders, tired miners, and hopeful families. This rider looked like none of them. This rider looked like trouble wrapped in money. Cole took the glass and drank like the room belonged to him. Then he let out a satisfied breath, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Not bad," he said, "for frontier water." One man at a nearby table, a ranch hand named Wheeze, muttered, "You got manners, or you leave those behind in the city." Cole turned slowly and smiled wider, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Manners are for people who need approval," he said. "I don't." The room tightened. Sheriff Harlan entered right then, as if he had been waiting for the exact moment. He stood in the doorway, letting his badge catch the light. He didn't raise his voice. "Dry Creek Station has rules," Harlan said. Cole tipped his head like he was amused. "I'm sure you do." Harlan walked up to the bar, close enough for Cole to see he wasn't joking. "Rule 1, Harlan said, don't start problems." Cole leaned back on the stool. "And if someone else starts one?" Harlan didn't blink. "Then you finish it politely or you leave," Cole chuckled. "You talk like you still believe the world is fair." Miss Juno moved closer, keeping her hands visible. "You want a room?" she asked. "Food, a hot wash." "We can help," Cole glanced at her. "You can help by staying out of my way." That was when Grandmother Mara entered the saloon. No one saw her come in at first. It was like the air noticed her before eyes did. Conversations stopped without anyone meaning to. Even Cole paused mid-smile because something about the room had shifted. Grandmother Myra was small and her hair was white like desert salt. She wore a simple shawl and carried a small cloth bag. Her face was lined, but her eyes were clear and awake. She didn't rush. She never rushed. Sheriff Harlan stepped slightly aside, giving her space like it was natural. Miss Juno lowered her gaze in respect. Old Finch set down his cloth, suddenly careful. Cole watched her like he was trying to decide what kind of threat she was. He didn't stand. He didn't nod, he didn't show even a basic greeting. Grandmother Mara looked at him. She didn't look impressed. She didn't look afraid. She looked curious. "You are not from here," she said. Cole smirked. "No kidding." Grandmother Mara tilted her head. "You ride a machine like it is a living friend." Cole tapped his mechanical horse's remote control on his belt. "It's better than a living friend," he said. "It doesn't complain, it doesn't tire, it does what it's told." A few people shifted uncomfortably. In Dry Creek Station, even tools were treated with a kind of respect because respect kept people alive out here. Grandmother Mara nodded once, slow. "Some things do not like being told," she said. Cole rolled his eyes. "Let me guess, you're the town storyteller." No one in the saloon breathed. Grandmother Myra's gaze stayed steady. "Some stories are warnings," she replied. Cole laughed louder than before, as if he wanted everyone to hear him win. "Warnings from an old woman on a bench, that's what runs this place." Sheriff Harlan's jaw tightened. "Watch your mouth," Cole waved him off. "Relax, Sheriff, I'm just trying to understand why a town would take orders from—" He looked at Myra again, and his smile turned sharper. "From a grandmother." Grandmother Mara didn't react the way Cole expected. She didn't shout, she didn't insult him back, she didn't demand respect, she just spoke softly. "The land here listens," she said. "It remembers." Cole leaned forward. "The land doesn't listen, the land is dirt." Grandmother Mara's eyes flicked toward the windows where the desert waited beyond the town. "Then you will speak freely," she said, "and you will be surprised when something answers." Cole scoffed. "I came here for relic maps, not bedtime lessons." At the mention of relics, the room changed again. People exchanged glances. Someone quietly set their drink down. The desert ruins were not a tourist topic. They were not a treasure hunt. They were a boundary. Sheriff Harlan spoke sharply. "Relic maps, who told you we had those?" Cole smiled like he enjoyed being asked. "I have sources," he said. "I have money. I have a buyer who pays double for anything pulled out of old alien stone." Grandmother Myra's voice stayed calm, but it seemed to fill the room anyway. "Things taken without respect bring trouble," she said. Cole turned to face her fully. "Respect doesn't make profit," he replied, "and profit is the only language the universe understands." Grandmother Mara stepped closer. She was so small next to him, yet Cole felt the strange need to straighten his back. Her eyes held him like a quiet rope. "You think the universe is empty," she said, "but some places are full." Cole's grin returned. "Listen, grandmother," he said, using the word like a joke. "You keep your birds and your tea, I'll handle the desert." A harsh silence dropped. Then, without warning, Cole flicked a small coin toward the floor near her feet. It wasn't a hard throw. It wasn't meant to injure. It was worse than that. It was meant to show she was nothing. The coin spun and landed with a bright metallic ring. A few people gasped. Miss Juno's hand tightened around the broom handle outside. Sheriff Harlan took one step forward, angry enough to act. But Grandmother Mara didn't move. She looked down at the coin, then back up at Cole. Her face remained calm. Her voice remained gentle. "Keep it," she said. "You will need it more than I do." Cole blinked, confused by how little his insult had done. He stood, brushing invisible dust from his coat like he was done with the conversation. "Tell your town to stay out of my path," he said. He walked out of the saloon, leaving the coin on the floor like a scar. Sheriff Harlan exhaled slowly. "Mara," he began, "I can remove him from town right now." Grandmother Mara raised a hand, stopping him. "No," she said. "Let him go where his heart pulls him." Miss Juno stepped inside, her voice tight. He disrespected you. Grandmother Mara's gaze softened. A person who gives disrespect is carrying something heavy, she said. If we throw it back, we carry it too. Wheeze the ranch hand shook his head. So we just let him walk all over us. Grandmother Mara looked toward the window again. The afternoon light had shifted. Far beyond the dunes, a thin line of blue shimmered, faint, almost like a breath. The desert is patient, she said. It does not shout, it teaches. Outside, Cole mounted his mechanical horse and rode toward the edge of town. He didn't look back. He didn't notice the way the birds stopped singing. He didn't notice the air growing strangely still. And he certainly didn't notice the first silent sign of change. She sat down as if nothing had happened, but her eyes stayed fixed on the horizon. For the first time in years, she whispered a sentence that sounded like a prayer and a warning at once. "Please," she said softly, "let him learn without losing himself." The blue shimmer in the distance brightened for a moment. Then the desert went quiet again, and Dry Creek Station held its breath. Cole Vance did not slow down as he left Dry Creek Station behind him. The town grew smaller in his rear sensors until it became nothing more than a quiet line against the red hills. He welcomed the silence. Towns full of rules and old traditions always felt heavy to him, like chains made of expectations. Out here, in the open desert, he felt free. His mechanical horse moved smoothly across the sand, its legs adjusting automatically to shifting terrain. Small lights blinked along its metallic body, scanning for danger, measuring heat, tracking direction. Cole trusted technology more than people. Machines made sense. Machines followed logic. People were unpredictable. He glanced back once toward the town. He remembered the old woman, Grandmother Mara, and her calm eyes. He shook his head and laughed quietly to himself. "Stories and warnings," he muttered. "That's all they have." He pressed a control on his wrist, and a small holographic map appeared in front of him. Bright lines showed possible routes through the desert based on old exploration data. One location blinked brighter than the others, an area marked as ancient structure, unknown origin. That was his destination. The sun climbed higher, turning the sand bright and harsh. Heat waves danced across the horizon, making distant shapes look like ghosts. For a while, everything seemed normal. Then the wind changed. At first, it was just a low whisper brushing against his coat. Then it grew stronger, carrying grains of sand that tapped lightly against his goggles. The sky above turned pale, as if a thin veil was sliding across it. Cole checked his readings. "Just weather," he said aloud. But something about the air felt different, heavy, almost watchful. As he rode deeper into the desert, faint blue lines began to glow beneath the sand, just like the ones Grandmother Mara had watched from the town square. They appeared and disappeared quickly, like lightning trapped under the ground. His horse slowed slightly, reacting to unstable terrain. "Keep moving," Cole ordered. The machine obeyed, but its sensors flashed warning colors. He ignored them. Hours passed. The hills behind him vanished completely. Now there was only sand, sky, and silence. The desert stretched endlessly, but Cole felt excitement growing. He believed he was close. Suddenly, a large shadow appeared on the horizon. At first, he thought it was a rock formation. But as he moved closer, the shape revealed sharp angles and smooth surfaces that no natural stone could create. The alien structure. Half buried in sand, the structure rose like a sleeping giant. Its walls were dark and smooth, untouched by time. No rust, no cracks, no damage. Strange symbols covered its surface, faintly glowing as if responding to his presence. Cole's heart beat faster. "Jackpot," he whispered. He dismounted and walked toward it slowly. The air felt cooler near the structure, almost calm compared to the restless desert around it. He placed his hand on the wall. The surface felt warm. Without warning, a thin line of light appeared where his hand touched. It spread outward in circles, scanning him from head to toe. Cole stepped back, surprised but excited. "That's right," he said with a grin. "Recognize a winner." A low sound echoed from inside the structure, not a voice, not a machine, something in between. A doorway opened. Cole laughed softly. "See, no magic, just technology." He walked inside without hesitation. Behind him, the doorway closed quietly. Back in Dry Creek Station, the mood felt uneasy. Sheriff Harlan stood near Grandmother Mara's stone bench, watching the distant desert. Miss Juno leaned against the saloon porch, arms crossed tightly. "He's gone straight for the ruins," Harlan said. Grandmother Mara nodded slowly. "He did not listen," she replied. Miss Juno frowned. "Why didn't you stop him? People listened to you." Grandmother Mara looked at her gently. A person must choose to listen, she said. Force does not create understanding. The wind picked up, brushing against their clothes. Far away, clouds gathered in strange spiral shapes. Harlan noticed first. Storm coming, he said, but this storm looked different. The clouds shimmered faintly blue, matching the glow sometimes seen under the desert sand. Grandmother Myra stood up slowly. The birds around her flew away suddenly, as if sensing something coming. "The desert is waking," she said quietly. Inside the structure, Cole walked through a long hallway lit by soft blue light. The walls seemed alive, shifting slightly like flowing metal. Symbols moved across the surfaces, forming patterns he couldn't understand. He activated his scanner. "No known language," he muttered. The hallway opened into a wide chamber. Floating platforms hovered in the air, connected by thin beams of light. At the center stood a tall pillar that pulsed slowly like a heart. Cole stepped forward carefully. As soon as he reached the middle of the room, the lights changed color. Blue turned to white. A low hum filled the space. Suddenly, gravity shifted. Cole stumbled, grabbing his balance. The floor tilted slightly, then returned to normal. His mechanical horse, waiting outside, sent a warning signal to his wrist device. "Easy," Cole said, though his voice sounded less confident now. The pillar flashed, projecting a shape in the air, a symbol that repeated over and over again. It looked almost like an eye. Cole frowned. "Security system," he guessed. He moved toward another doorway, but it didn't open. Instead, the lights grew brighter, scanning him again. For the first time, doubt touched his thoughts. "Okay, maybe I need to slow down," he admitted. He remembered Grandmother Mara's words, "Some places are full." He pushed the thought away quickly. "I've handled worse," he said aloud, but the room did not respond like other ruins he had explored. It felt aware. Every step he took seemed measured, watched, judged. Outside, the storm finally arrived. Wind howled across the desert, lifting sand into spinning walls that blocked visibility. Lightning-like energy flashed between the clouds, striking the ground without sound. Back in town, people gathered together, worried. Windows closed, doors locked. Grandmother Mara watched the storm with quiet sadness. "It has begun," she said. Sheriff Harlan turned toward her. "We need to bring him back." Grandmother Mara's eyes stayed on the horizon. "He must first understand why." Harlan shook his head. "Understanding won't matter if he doesn't survive." She did not answer immediately. Instead, she closed her eyes briefly, as if listening to something far away. Inside the alien structure, Cole tried to retrace his steps, but the hallway had changed. The door he entered through was gone. Lights shifted again. A low voice-like sound filled the chamber, echoing without words. Cole's confidence faded slightly. "All right," he said slowly. "Not funny anymore." He reached for his scanner again, but the device flickered and shut down. The structure had taken control. Outside, the storm grew stronger, swirling around the ancient building like a shield. Cole stood alone in the glowing chamber, realizing for the first time that he might not be in control anymore. Inside the ancient structure, Cole Vance stood very still. The glowing chamber around him felt alive. Soft blue light moved along the walls like slow water. Symbols appeared and disappeared in patterns he could not understand. The air was cool but heavy, like the space was thinking. Cole took a slow breath. He had explored many ruins before. Some were dangerous, some were empty, but this place felt different. It didn't feel abandoned. It felt aware. He tried to activate his wrist scanner again. The screen flickered, then died completely. "Great," he muttered. He turned toward the hallway where he had entered earlier, but it was gone. The walls had shifted. New passages opened in different directions, each glowing faintly. A low sound filled the room, not loud but constant, like a deep heartbeat. Cole forced himself to stay calm. "All right," he said quietly. "Just another system trying to test visitors." He walked toward the nearest corridor. As soon as he stepped forward, the floor beneath him changed color. A thin ring of light moved up his body from boots to head, scanning him slowly. Cole stopped moving. The light faded. Nothing else happened. He exhaled slowly and continued. Outside, the desert storm grew stronger. Wind pushed sand into spiraling walls that hid the horizon completely. Lightning-like flashes moved silently through the sky, turning the clouds blue for brief moments. In Dry Creek Station, people gathered inside the saloon for safety. Sheriff Harlan stood near the window, watching the storm with worry. Miss Juneau crossed her arms. "That's no normal storm." "No," Harlan agreed, "and he's right in the middle of it." Grandmother Myra stood quietly near the doorway. Her eyes were calm, but sadness rested behind them. "He is not only in the storm," she said softly. "He is inside the old place." Several people exchanged nervous looks. Wheeze, the ranch hand, spoke carefully. "The ruins, nobody goes there." Grandmother Mara nodded. "Because they are not empty." Sheriff Harlan turned toward her. "Then we go bring him back." She shook her head slowly. "You cannot fight the desert with force," she said, "but someone must go." The room grew quiet. Everyone knew who she meant. "You?" Harlan asked. Grandmother Mara smiled gently. "I have walked there before." Inside the structure, Cole moved deeper through twisting corridors. Every path seemed similar, yet slightly different. He tried marking the wall with a small laser tool, but the mark faded within seconds. The structure did not allow easy escape. He entered another large chamber. Floating shapes hovered in the air, moving slowly like drifting clouds. When he stepped closer, they reacted, shifting away from him. "Motion sensors," he guessed. But the feeling of being watched grew stronger. Suddenly, gravity changed again. Cole stumbled as the floor tilted slightly. He grabbed onto a nearby column to steady himself. The lights flickered, then returned to calm blue. "Okay, not funny," he said. For the first time, fear touched his voice. He remembered Grandmother Mara's words, "Some places are full." He shook his head, trying to push away the memory. But the more he moved, the more the structure reacted. Doors closed when he approached them too fast. Lights brightened when he spoke loudly. Even his breathing seemed to change the environment. Finally, exhausted, he sat down on a smooth platform. "What do you want?" he said aloud. The room responded with silence. Then slowly, symbols formed in front of him again, the same eye-like shape repeating over and over. He stared at it. The symbol didn't feel threatening. It felt curious, like it was waiting. Cole leaned back against the wall, suddenly aware of how alone he was. Outside, Grandmother Myra prepared for the journey. She wrapped a simple shawl around her shoulders and carried a small bag with a few items: water, cloth, and something small hidden inside. Sheriff Harlan walked beside her to the edge of town. "You don't have to do this alone," he said. She smiled kindly. "Sometimes one voice is easier for the desert to hear." Harlan frowned. "He disrespected you." "Yes," she said gently, "but he is still someone's child." The sheriff watched her step into the storm, her small figure slowly disappearing into swirling sand. Inside the structure, Cole stood again and began walking, choosing a path at random. Suddenly, the lights dimmed. The deep humming sound grew louder. A new doorway opened ahead of him. Cole hesitated, then stepped through. The room beyond was smaller, quieter. At the center stood a smooth platform glowing softly. As he approached, the symbol appeared again, brighter this time. He felt strange, not attacked, not trapped, but examined, judged. He raised his hands slightly. "Look, I'm just here to collect relics," he said. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." The lights flickered. The symbol changed shape briefly, then returned to its original form. Cole felt frustration rising. "Fine," he said. "What do you want me to do?" Silence. Then a new sound reached him, footsteps, soft, slow footsteps. He turned quickly. Grandmother Mara stood at the entrance. For a moment he thought he was imagining her. "You," he said, shocked. She stepped closer calmly, as if the shifting lights meant nothing. "You came," he said. "I said the desert teaches," she replied gently. Cole looked around. "How did you even get in here?" She smiled slightly. "By listening." He almost laughed, but something stopped him. Maybe it was relief, maybe it was shame. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "It's dangerous." Grandmother Mara studied the glowing symbol in front of them. "It is not angry," she said. "It is asking." "Asking what?" She looked at him kindly. "For respect." Cole frowned. "I don't understand." She stepped forward slowly, placing her hand lightly against the glowing platform. The lights softened immediately. "Slow your thoughts," she said. "Do not try to control, just be present." Cole hesitated. Then, unsure why, he followed her example. He stood quietly, breathing slowly. The room changed. The humming sound lowered. The symbol shifted shape gently, no longer repeating in sharp patterns. A doorway opened behind them. Cole stared in disbelief. "That worked." Grandmother Mara nodded. "The old ones who built this place valued intention." He looked at her differently now, not as an old woman, but as someone who understood something he didn't. "Why help me?" he asked quietly. She turned toward him, her eyes warm. "Because learning is more important than punishment." Outside, the storm began to calm slightly, as if the desert itself had been waiting for this moment. And for the first time since entering the ruins, Cole felt something unfamiliar inside him. not confidence. Not pride, the path out of the ancient structure did not look the same as when Cole had entered. Soft blue light guided the way forward. The walls no longer shifted suddenly, and the heavy humming sound faded into a calm background rhythm. It felt as if the structure itself had decided to trust them. Cole walked beside Grandmother Mara in silence. He kept looking around, half expecting another test or trap, but nothing aggressive happened. Instead, the corridors opened smoothly, leading them step by step toward the exit. "You really understand this place," Cole said finally. Grandmother Mara smiled gently. "I understand how to listen," she replied. Cole lowered his gaze slightly. "I didn't listen," he admitted. She did not answer immediately. She allowed the silence to sit between them, calm and respectful. Outside, the storm had begun to weaken. Through a narrow opening ahead, Cole could see flashes of normal sunlight breaking through the clouds. They reached the final doorway. It opened quietly, revealing the desert beyond. Wind brushed across Cole's face, carrying cool air after the long tension inside the ruins. He stepped out slowly. The storm clouds were pulling away, leaving behind a sky washed clean. The sand still glowed faintly blue in thin lines that faded gradually. Cole looked back at the structure. From the outside, it appeared silent and still again, like it had never moved at all. "That place, it tested me," he said. Grandmother Mara nodded. "It reflected you." He frowned slightly. "What does that mean?" "When you arrived," she said, "your thoughts were loud. You wanted to take to control to prove yourself stronger. The structure responded to that." Cole remembered the shifting walls, the blocked paths, the rising pressure. "And when I slowed down?" he asked. "It listened differently," she said. Cole stayed quiet for a long moment. "I thought strength meant pushing forward," he said slowly, "not waiting." Grandmother Mara began walking back toward town, her steps steady despite the long journey. "True strength," she said gently, "knows when to step forward and when to stand still." Cole followed her. The journey back felt longer than before. Without the storm, the desert looked peaceful again, but Cole noticed things he had ignored earlier: small plants growing between rocks, birds flying low across the dunes, the quiet rhythm of the wind. He realized he had rushed past all of it earlier. They walked in silence for a while. Finally, Cole spoke again. "Back in the saloon, I disrespected you." Grandmother Mara did not react with anger. "Yes," she said simply. "I thought people respected you because they were afraid," he admitted. "Or because they didn't know better. And now," he hesitated, words felt heavy, "now I think they respect you because you understand something deeper than the rest of us." She smiled softly but said nothing. Cole continued, "I threw that coin at you like you didn't matter." That was wrong. The wind moved through the desert quietly. Grandmother Mara stopped walking and turned toward him. "You have already begun to change," she said. "That matters more than the mistake itself." Cole felt a strange mix of relief and guilt. "I want to fix it," he said. She nodded, "Then walk forward differently." By the time they reached Dry Creek Station, the sun was setting. Orange light covered the town, and people waited near the edge of the road. Sheriff Harlan stood at the front, arms crossed tightly. Miss Juneau stood beside him, watching with worried eyes. When they saw Grandmother Mara and Cole walking together, relief spread through the crowd. "They're back," someone shouted. Harlan stepped forward quickly. "You all right?" he asked, looking between them. Grandmother Mara nodded calmly. "The desert has finished teaching for today." Harlan glanced at Cole carefully. He expected arrogance or excuses. Instead, Cole removed his hat slowly. "I owe everyone an apology," he said. The crowd grew quiet. "I came here thinking I was better than this town," he continued. "I disrespected your traditions, I disrespected Grandmother Mara, and I nearly paid for my arrogance." Miss Juneau studied his face, searching for signs of mockery. There were none. Cole continued, "The ruins didn't attack me. They showed me who I was acting like, and I didn't like what I saw." A long silence followed. Finally, Wheeze the ranch hand spoke. "So what now?" Cole took a deep breath. "Now I learn if you'll let me stay." People exchanged uncertain looks. Grandmother Mara stepped forward slightly. "Growth deserves a chance," she said gently. Sheriff Harlan studied Cole carefully. After a moment, he nodded once. "You follow our rules," Harlan said. "Respect the town, respect the land." Cole nodded firmly. "I will." Miss Juneau smiled slightly. "Then you'll need a room and probably a long rest." The tension broke softly as people began talking again. Days passed. Cole did not leave. Instead of boasting, he helped repair broken equipment. He used his advanced tools to improve water pumps and fix damaged solar panels. He listened when elders spoke about the land. He even returned to the stone bench where Grandmother Mara fed her birds. One morning, he sat beside her quietly. "You were right," he said. "The desert listens." She handed him a small piece of bread to feed the birds. "And now you listen too," she said. He smiled slightly. In the distance, the blue shimmer appeared briefly across the dunes, calm, peaceful, almost like approval. Cole watched it with respect. For the first time since arriving, he did not feel the need to conquer the desert or prove himself stronger. He felt something better. He felt part of something. Grandmother Mara looked toward the horizon with quiet satisfaction. Every traveler brought change. Some brought trouble, some brought growth, and sometimes, if the desert was patient enough, even the most arrogant hearts could learn to become gentle. The wind moved softly through Dry Creek Station as the sun rose higher, and life continued, stronger, wiser, and more connected than before.